Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I am joined, of course, by the one, the only, the man himself, BA, Brandon Anderson, for some best bets for NFL Week 18, last week of the regular season. But hey, we got beautiful playoff football on the horizon. We will get to those bets shortly, but first, I just want to talk about some fun trends and talking points kind of entering Week 18. And for me, it's just about the playoff field. So if the Ravens do happen to lose on Sunday Night Football to the Steelers, eliminating them from the playoffs, we would see a very rare playoff field without some real heavy hitters. We would see two teams who entered the season with 11-plus win totals miss the playoffs in the Ravens and Chiefs. The first time we have seen that since 2000 with Washington and Jacksonville. That's how long it's been in that front. Obviously, with an extra game, higher win totals, but nonetheless, still crazy enough. And we would see a bunch of teams 10-1, 8-1, missing the playoffs. So with this expanded field, pretty crazy nonetheless. And also, of course, we've reached week 18, which means win totals. We have 4 win totals actually in the balance heading into week 18 with the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Browns all needing wins to go over. So we will see how that comes into play. But Brandon, before we get into this, what's your thoughts on week 18?
Yeah, it's interesting that, normally with the expanded field and the extra game now, you would think initially, at least I would think, well, that maybe means more volatility, more time for underdogs to make a run. Well, really what it's been historically, and not this year, is more chances for the good teams to be the better team. And usually it's meant that the favorites are even better at getting into the playoffs. That's just one extra game for them to make up the ground for that one game they blew back in week 7 or week 11, So this year really is an exception to that. We really are just seeing a very topsy-turvy year. And yeah, I wanted to talk just about, week 18 is such a unique animal in the NFL. We kind of saw this already with week 17, where a lot of the games didn't matter. And to me, I want to just chat a little bit about, how do you approach week 18? What do you do? How do you bet it when, look, you don't want to just not bet. It's the last full slate of the year. So you want to be able to have some fun. But some of these games, man, they just look this absolutely unplayable. But look, we've bet Jets money lines this year. We've bet Panthers money lines. Unplayable games can turn playable. So for me personally, I'm looking more long shots, underdogs in week 18. There are going to be more teams at long odds that might just accidentally try, or maybe the favorite ends up resting or pulling guys halfway through the game. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at motivation. I'm looking a lot at correlation. If X team loses, what does that mean for Y's team's playoff chances? So we got a couple correlated angles. And I think too, for me, of course, I'm the futures guy. This is a great chance to take a future swing before the game to say, okay, if I like this team, what does that mean for them to win the game? How does that help their path? And then is the path better so I can skip the money line now, invest straight into the Super Bowl odds or something like that? Incentives, I know you've got to call them up on incentives. I'd like to hear what you think about them. I personally don't do a ton with incentives. I think that the cat's a bit out of the bag. I think that's mostly baked into a lot of those prop lines. For me, it's more like, okay, well, if I know Jamar Chase wants to get a few of these lines that he's trying to hit, great. Well, I'm going to assume he's going to play all game then and try hard. Maybe I can like the Bengals better, but I'm not sure about the prop lines necessarily. And then overall, last note, probably just less aggressive on units. These maybe are half unit plays versus full unit plays today. It's the last full slate. So I'm going to give you all sorts of best bets. We'll do the 3 kind of playoff games early and have some fun with some other stuff. But, don't go too crazy. If you think you know something about week 18, you probably don't. So that's what I think about week 18. Where are you at on week 18 on the slate, on the player incentives, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there is just a lot of nuance to week 18. And I think it's also, like you said, bleeding into week 17 a little bit, which is extending the regular season, but it already feels a little long. But I think between practice reports and playing time and actually figuring out who's going to be on the field so you can weigh snaps, which is basically opportunities this time of year. Like if there's no Achane and all of a sudden you have Donovan Edwards and Ollie Gordon and Julian, there's just a lot of options for who's going to be on the field, which inherently tries to lean into how you should be betting props. So I think that's one angle of this. I think the incentives is way out of the bag. My opinion on a gambling perspective would be to be very aware of them, check out where those lines opened, where they've gone, and then Saturday, Sunday, even potentially look at going the other way if they've moved way too much. I think another thing which is starting to be talked about a little bit more, but is probably more interested to players, is these stat milestones, getting to 1,000 yards, getting to 1,500 scrimmage. Like, these different things seem like things that they are talking about more in the media. I think it's good for publicity for them in contracts. It's good for the agents. So I think incentives is one thing, which also teams, coaches, owners don't necessarily also want to be giving these players sometimes. So I think these things work a lot of different ways, and it's a little convoluted, especially now that the cat is so much out of the bag and it's so publicly available as well. I think the other thing before we move on here is the data does say that the big underdog, the random big underdog, does come through every once in a blue moon here. And I put this in my article, but week 17 and 18, dogs of over a full touchdown, so 7.5 or more, are 16 and 53 on the money line over the last decade. You see, oh, that sounds like crap. Well, I mean, it is almost a 10% return on investment. They've been profitable in 3 straight seasons and 7 of the last 10. Now, this week we've got a lot. I mean, I believe if I look at it right now, there are 7 teams currently at 7.5 or more. So we kind of have to see what line movement looks over the next 24 to 48 hours. But blindly betting dogs has come to the window, which goes a little bit into what you said. And then finally, I think you're really smart about this. It's looking ahead to the next step. It's, okay, I think I like Tampa Bay this week, but also I have them flaming out. So let's look at elimination stage, or there's just a lot of ways to kind of attack this. So this is probably my favorite week of the year because I love digging into data, having different angles, and this might be the biggest data angle week of the year.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll get to some of those futures angles. So format for today, we're going to kind of start out a little bit like what our format will be, I think, during the playoffs, which is just go through the playoff slate in order, game by game, kind of like when we do our Monday night preview of just like, okay, here's the matchup, here's the line of the total, what do we think about the matchup, and then what are the bets? So we basically have 3 effective playoff games this weekend. We've got 2 for the division, we've got the game for the 1 seed. So that's the main course today. We'll go through those, but I'll just tell you up front, I'm not really picking a side in those games. I know that that's the sexy thing to do, is come out firing with one of those teams. But to me, it's what you just said. It's playing futures angles. It's if I like the side, then what? If you give a mouse a cookie, what happens after that? So that's more the angles we'll get to. And I'll have, props and some of the things within those games. And then once we get past those main 3, we'll kind of lightning round through some of the other games on the slate. Look, the main 3 games, those are all the island games this weekend. We still have a whole NFL red zone on Sunday with 7 hours. So don't worry, we'll have a few bets for that as well. And even a look ahead this week still. Thought we wouldn't have one because there's no look ahead yet, but there is. Some books are posting potential look ahead lines for playoff matchups. So we'll get to that as well.
Yeah, I'm the one that, with a few other people, who update the quarterbacks on Action Labs, and I've been going back and forth between this guy starting and TBD. It's been a wild week, and I think it's just going to continue over the next 24 hours or so. But if you'd like to tail some of the bets we're about to discuss, find the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or visit actionnetwork.com/bet now, or even better, sign up for Action Pro. Action Pro users get real-time alerts as soon as experts like Stuckey, Brandon Anderson, Chris Raybon all track their picks in the Action app. You'll also get real-time money percentages to see where the smart money is flowing, access to our NFL player prop projections powered by the one and only Sean Kerner. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro to get started. Use the promo code POD20 for $20 off an annual subscription. That's promo code POD20, POD20, $20 off, holiday special, actionnetwork.com/pro. Jump in now. All right, it's time to get to those Week 18 best bets. We talked about Week 18. We talked about all the different things that come with this week. So let's start with the main course here. Carolina, Tampa Bay, kick us off. It feels like a Saturday playoff game, just giving us, a little bit of crapola. I've seen everybody saying, we should have just played this at 9 a.m. on Wednesday and gotten it over with. But no, it's 4:30 on Saturday. So what are you doing with Carolina, Tampa?
What's funny is, in classic NFC South style, it's not even a real playoff game anymore, because now if Carolina loses the game, they might still backdoor into the playoffs if Atlanta beats New Orleans on Sunday. So I'm sure NFL execs are kind of hoping for that outcome just because we have to tune in more to another game on Sunday, a full playoff game, I suppose. I do wonder, could that allow Carolina to perhaps play slightly more aggressively here, knowing that they do have a little bit of a margin for error if they lose? Maybe they go for a couple extra fourth downs or something like that. We've seen that come through for Carolina this year. So Tampa Bay, 9 of 11 against Carolina, but last 5 wins by single digits. Probably this is going to be a playoff sort of feel, a low scoring, close game. These teams stink. Tampa Bay has won 1 of their last 7 games. Carolina, you have this in your column, minus 67 point differential would be the worst ever by any playoff team. And by the way, the record was the 99 Dolphins. That team made the playoffs and lost in the playoffs in Dan Marino's last game ever, 62-7. So something to look forward to if Carolina does get into the playoffs here. Trends would go under. It's a windy game. Looks like our windiest game of the weekend. We know about windy unders. There's some division under trends. I can't get to the under. These defenses are terrible. Both bottom 5 defenses the last 6 weeks. It feels playoffy, so that makes me think under. I just don't trust the defenses. Carolina wants to run the football. Tampa Bay is good stopping the run, but invites you to pass the ball. So to me, if you want Carolina, you want Bryce Young. And I don't want Bryce Young in my life or in this game. I can't totally get there to trust Bryce. But with Tampa, Tristan Wirfs has the turf toe injury. Top cornerback Jamel Dean is injured. That team might just be cooked. Like, they might have just quit 8 weeks ago already, and we just haven't really been able to write the final funeral for them yet because the division's so bad. So I can't even say I go back and forth. It's like a would you rather, and I don't want either one of the options here on the game. So I'm going to just go back to what we played 2 weeks ago. I'm going to play a prop. Give me Mike Evans. Give me a touchdown. It's plus 170 to Mike Evans. This is what he does. He just hit this against Carolina 2 weeks ago when we played it. Panthers, 3rd worst DVOA against wide receiver 1. Now 9 touchdowns to the top touchdown threat receiver in the last 12 games. So Evans, his last 11 versus Carolina, averages 7 catches, 100 yards on 11 targets, 12 touchdowns in those 11 games, at least one in 73% of them, and multiple in 3 of those games. So give me an Evans touchdown plus 170, obligatory 2 at 13-1 for Mike Evans. And then I'll give you a futures angle here as well, but thoughts on that game or pick overall?
Yeah, I mean, if I was forced to pick a side, I'd probably lean on Tampa. I was looking at the under 2.5. You could also mix the money line with like Denver money line. You get it down to like minus 110. Certain things like that I think could be intriguing. I think the total would be an underside, but people are starting to get a little bit of the win there as it's gone down a full point, now down to 43.5. So by the time we hit game time, I wouldn't be shocked to see 43s in the market. I think the Evans look is right. I'm only just scared of they've got like 4 or 5 different targets now. Like Ibuka is almost a 4th or 5th option at this point. McMillan's stepping up. Like Baker doesn't have a favorite except for Evans, where it just looks like he gives him first reads. It looks like he tries to force it there a little bit sometimes. So I see where the play is coming from.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. And I would be with you. I would lean Bucks here if I had to play a side. I think it's probably wrong to trust this, but I still trust Baker right now, given the 2 options. I still trust the veteran playoff experience. Like, we'll talk about this with wildcard round. In round 1, when the playoffs start, you want the veteran experience team. You don't want the team new on the scene. So if this is a playoff type game, you want the experience here, but it's a -3. If it's under the 3, maybe I would have got there. I know it was for a lot of the week. I can't play with the line at 3. And so now we do the if you give a mouse a cookie. So play it out. So I kind of like Tampa here. I like the Saints in Atlanta. We're going to get to that one in a little bit. So if Tampa does win and the Saints win, now the Bucks are in the playoffs. Okay, now what? The Bucks are in the playoffs as the 4 seed, a home game, but they're playing Seattle or the Rams. And I think they get demolished in that game. They are the way worst team in that matchup. It's the most lopsided matchup in the playoffs. So here's the angle on the game as a future. Bucks to lose in the wild card round. At DraftKings, that's under stage of elimination, plus 500. It's 5-1 odds. That's 17%. My numbers would make that about 22%. It's effectively, it's a 3-game parlay. It's Bucks to win this game It's Atlanta to lose to the Saints on Sunday so that Tampa gets in. And then you got a 5-1 on essentially Seattle or the Rams money line against Tampa Bay once we get there. So that's the upside. You're going to feel really good about that ticket once we get there. You just got to escape out of the weekend. So that's my last angle here. Bucks to lose in the wild card round, 5-1 at DraftKings.
And you had mentioned the Mike Evans stuff. I also looked at a few things at him at home, which has been really good. Since 2019, 6+ receptions against Carolina in 6 straight home games, touchdown in 5 straight, 89+ receiving yards in 6 straight. So at home, he's actually looked better. And then listen, I'm never going to talk you out of Todd Bowles exiting the playoffs early. I mean, he's 1-3 straight up in ATS in the playoffs. It's never a bad idea. It's just how you get there. And I honestly see Atlanta potentially showing up and winning that game, which just causes more absurdity in this one. But we'll talk about that again in a minute. So are we ready for Seattle, San Fran?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what's your thought process here? I mean, this to me, for the 1 seed versus like the 5 seed. So this one has a lot on the line, like it did last year for Darnold in that Minnesota-Detroit game. But with San Francisco's defense, I do feel like this is a different matchup for him, a more positive matchup. So if he would to play bad in this game, I would probably put that as way more of a red flag. But how do you handicap this one?
Yeah, so look, we just talked about a playoff game. We're going to get to the playoff game to end Week 18, Baltimore-Pittsburgh. To me, this game is way more important. This is the most important game of the regular season. It's all cute who gets in the other divisions, but they're just going to lose pretty quick anyways. This game swings everything. I have the winner of this game, 30%-ish, to win the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. Loser drops down to 15%. So this is a double your odds outcome to make the Super Bowl. This effectively is like a conference championship level importance of game. For Seattle, they cannot drop below the 5 seed. So they're a little bit more insulated. Remember, 5 seed plays the teams we just talked about. That's not so terrible. That's as close as you get to a first round bye. The Niners can still drop to the 6 seed, depending on the Rams game. If the Rams lose 2, San Fran is the 5 with a loss. But obviously you want the 1 seed. San Fran has won 7 of the last 8 matchups against Seattle, but Seattle had won 15 of 17 before that. So look at the matchup. My first thought was, Seattle -1.5 on the road? Ooh, boy, that feels a bit surprising. As hot as San Fran's offense has been, for Seattle to be a road favorite, but that's pretty much my number. I have it Seattle -1.8. So I don't really see a big edge there. Looking at offense, defense, Seattle defense, San Fran offense, man, you can't get a better matchup than that. We got Seattle defense, Rams offense a couple times already, and we enjoyed that matchup all the way. I think this one is just as good, maybe better. Seattle's defense has been better on the road this year, and this is why they went out and got Mike Macdonald, specifically for Shanahan and McVay offenses. These are the things Seattle's defense does best. What does Shanahan offense do? They go motion, they go under center, they do play action, all those gadgety type things that make his offense so good. Well, what's Seattle good at? Top 7 by EPA per play against motion, play action, under center. These are the things they're taking away from you. And by DVOA, Seattle is the #1 defense defending the middle of the field. That is Shanahan football. You attack the middle of the field, and that is what Seattle's done a good job taking away. Seattle is great at pressuring the quarterback. Okay, that was less of a deal against Mac Jones. He can't move as much, but Brock Purdy can create. We saw him have some big plays in the last couple of weeks, creating, extending the play. How much does that matter? And the big injury to watch here, to me, huge, Trent Williams. We saw him get hurt on the first play, first hamstring injury of his career, supposedly. If he's out, that is, and I don't say this lightly, as big of a loss to any non-quarterback on any team, on any player in the league. I have that a full point to the spread, and that's probably under what it should be. Huge splits for San Fran on and off with Trent Williams. So that matters for the pass and the run game. Seattle plays the second most light box defense in the league, and they're #1 EPA per play when they do that. They want to have their defensive backs on the field and dare you to beat them that way. Most years, San Fran would kill you doing that. Most years, they would run the ball all over you, but they have been bottom 3 EPA per play against light box this season. They have not punished that well, but are running a little better lately. So on the flip side, The only team that plays more light box defense is the Niners. So we're going to get a lot of, I dare you to beat me in your run game. You're not beating me by passing. I dare you to run the ball and beat me with 12, 14 play drives. And Seattle has not been good at that either. The early Rams game Seattle played, I think it was like week 11 or week 10, somewhere in there. The Rams said, we're not going to match your personnel, Seattle. We're going to match tendencies. Now, here's what that means. Seattle Clint Kubiak offense had all been about, we're going to look like we're running the ball, and we're going to pass out of heavy. We're going to put tight ends and extra bodies on the field, and all we need is JSN. Go deep, JSN. Darnold will find you because you're running against all these bigger dudes stacked into the box to stop the run, but we're not running anyway. And the Rams said, all right, bet. We know you're not running. We're going to defend all your big boys as though you're passing anyway, because that's what your tendencies tell us. And since that happened, everyone else is copying that. And Seattle's offense has gone from like top 3 to 5 to very league average or worse in a lot of metrics. So can they run the ball against San Fran, who's going to say, go ahead. You want to run the ball on us? We don't think you can beat us that way. And I think that's what we're going to get both teams both ways in this game. Is kind of a big game of chicken. Can you run the ball and beat us? Because we don't really want you passing on us. Can Darnold light up the secondary? I think he can. There's not a lot of pressure from San Fran. If he gets some time, he can hit throws down the field. So to me, I get stuck a little bit on a side, and I'll give you a prop in a second. I'm curious what you think about. I don't know if I trust Darnold or Purdy in the matchup. I think I trust them enough, but to me, I don't really trust the run games, and I think this comes down to who can actually run the ball better, and I don't know if I have a good conclusion on that. What do you think about all that?
I think it's confusing because Seattle is much, much more the well-rounded team. I think the biggest Achilles heel in the game is between the Trent Williams injury and San Francisco's defense. If either of those things become even close to a positive, I think San Francisco has a decent edge also being at home in this one. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, the line is kind of right and telling you the story here. I mean, San Francisco opened very, very early in that -2 range, and they've seen literally no line movement in their direction since. And I see this even getting closer to 2 from Seattle's standpoint. But if I had to pick a quarterback in the game, I would probably take Purdy. It just feels like his efficiency, his cool and calmness, like there is going to be a point in this game where Sam Darnold is going to need to make a play. And I think I would rather see Brock Purdy in that situation than Sam. So yeah. I think I'm going to wait and see and potentially lock in some San Francisco stuff. But it's hard because Seattle is a much, much more complete team all around. Like they have maybe, I mean, Kittle's going to play. He's banged up, but Barner is great and is barely even used in this offense. So, I mean, I think what Seattle has, especially with the experience of Cooper Kupp too, like he's barely used in some of these situations. So I think this is truly a bit of a pick'em game with Seattle getting, a point and a half based off of their history this season.
Yeah, I think so. And it's really crazy to me. Seattle's defense, and don't forget special teams. They have a historically good special teams. Those two units are so strong that even with the offense falling down to league average, Seattle still is #1 DVOA team the second half of the season, even with a very average offense. And that is not how things work usually. You have to be really, really good on defense and special teams to be the best team in the league despite that. And look, the parity is helping that as well. So I don't know on a side. I can't really talk myself into Darnold on the road. I'm a Vikings fan. I had this exact game last year, the 1 seed in week 18. Darnold on the road did not go well for me. But I don't really want to bet the Niners with no Trent Williams. I don't love that either. I will say Niners defense clearly the weak link among the units in the game. Seattle's offense has been better early, better on script. If it's Seattle, I think you'll know early. I think Seattle will look the part early, and then maybe you need to hold on defensively from there. If Seattle doesn't look the part early offensively, I will be very worried for them pretty quickly. So that's kind of my take on the game. I'm going to play a prop here on the guy we all know is going to do a lot of stuff. It's Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to play Christian McCaffrey receptions escalator. Seattle allows the lowest fantasy points in the league to running backs, but the most running back receptions. We've played this a couple times with them. They've allowed at least 4 receptions to running back 6 straight games. 6 or more in 4 of those 6, 8 or more twice. Earlier, before that stretch, they allowed 7, 7, 7, and 11 running back receptions. So on the season, at least 6 catches, half their games, at least 7, almost half the games. McCaffrey, we know he's going to run the ball. We know he's going to catch. He's going to do everything in this game for them. 6 catches or more, 10 games out of 16 this season. Though admittedly, not great lately. Mostly early in the season and a lot more with Mac Jones. But I think this is a good matchup for him. Take the escalator. 5.5 receptions or more is plus 125. I like that part best. And then just kind of nibbling on the way up. 7 catches plus 210. And then just a bit on 8 for plus 390. And then here's the real escalator, I think. We hit this a few weeks ago. I still think McCaffrey is live for Offensive Player of the Year. So this was Jonathan Taylor all season. It's not anymore. Now JSN's the favorite, minus 300. But he's really fallen off. Last 5 games, under 80 yards a game, only 100-yard game. He was on a 2,000-yard pace. This 5 games, he's down to about a 1,350-yard pace. So that's about a third less on production on the season. And here he is, head-to-head. If the Niners win, and if McCaffrey outplays JSN, here's a head-to-head spot to take away the Offensive Player of the Year. And I think McCaffrey is a really strong bet for that. Plus 380, I think those odds are badly misrepresenting the chance he has in the biggest game of the season to go be the guy in a good matchup. And if you like the futures angles, if you're on Seattle, Mike McDonald, plus 750, Coach of the Year. Hey, if Seattle wins and gets the 1 seed, maybe JSN gets the award, but why not Mike McDonald? Like, for what he's done in Seattle and as good as that defense specifically has been, why wouldn't he be in the mix? 750 feels too long for that. And then we continue to talk about Nick Emmanwori, 10-1 for Defense Rookie of the Year. Just feels a touch long. 1 big play, 1 interception, 1 swing play in a huge game in a race that's been very blah and wide open. I feel like that could hit as well. And then just last thing on futures, to me, if you want a side in this game, if you like a side, you got to go big because the side that wins is the 1 seed, and the 1 seed is such a huge swing. So to me, the only way to bet a side here is futures. And I think the prices are way off for one of the teams. Your chances to make the Super Bowl literally double if you win this game. So if you're the Niners, if you win this game, you not only get a bye week, then you might get to play the injured Packers if they get the upset early, or you might even get to play an NFC South team if that upset happens. And don't forget, Super Bowl's in San Francisco this year. So if San Fran wins this game, they're 2 more home games away from a home Super Bowl. So we're sitting before the season on Niners 20-1, Seahawks 70-1. So we're in good shape. But whether you're there or not, I think the play here is Niners NFC and Super Bowl tickets, plus 440 to win the NFC, plus 950 to win the Super Bowl. I think if San Fran wins this game, which we're saying we kind of agree, mostly a coin flip, slightly to Seattle. But if San Fran wins a mostly coin flip game, they're the Super Bowl favorite. They are the Super Bowl favorite, not the best team in the league, but the best path as a very good team. I have them like a 3rd to 5th best team. I would put them close to 30% to win the NFC. We're playing 19% here on this ticket and about 15% to win the Super Bowl. And here's the thing. If they lose, I have them dropping down pretty significantly, but to about 12% NFC, 6% Super Bowl. That's a big drop from what we hope, but it's not that far off from the price we're buying the ticket on right now. 6% versus plus 950 Super Bowl is not a huge risk that we're taking on here. And San Fran's offense has been good enough to still make up that ground. So I think Seattle, you're basically paying for them winning the game in advance if you buy Seattle futures now. I think you want San Fran futures, NFC Super Bowl. I got the Trey Lance jersey on. Trey's starting this weekend, so I got double use out of it. We're not betting Trey Lance, don't worry. But I think Niners futures is the one team to invest in for big stuff this week right now.
Yeah, I was going to say more to come on Denver and the Chargers, but that's not true. All right. In this matchup, though, Christian McCaffrey, I'll take this one at a time. I'll treat this like a playoff game. So if you do look at playoff games with San Francisco, 29 receptions, last 5 playoff games, about 6 per game. Then you look at the last game against Seattle, and you had mentioned this, 9 receptions on 10 targets. So obviously that was something that even with the quarterback situation in that game, something they were looking to attack. In terms of the award market, Coach of the year scares the living poop out of me. I want absolutely nothing to do with that market unless you already have invested in it, because I feel like this is a year where you'll bet 4 of them and the 5th guy will win. I think it can go any number of 5 ways. I think it's going to be difficult for it not to be either Vrabel or Shanahan, even if that's like, I think it's going to go to Vrabel. I think they're going to beat Miami. Drake's, I think it's going to go to both of them. Like, New England was in a situation where they just shouldn't have been here. Like, this is the Indiana story in college football. Like, this is really incredible that New England's in this position. I think he's probably going to win. I still like the Nick Eamon-Maury bet. I see it at even 12-1 in the market. I think Schwessinger is going to win the award. He's minus 1,500 in most of these books. But you're right. I mean, this is a primetime game where, you know, a fumble recovery, a pick six. Like, to me, if you're going to bet on Eamon-Maury things in the game, you might as well take the 12-1 because it's an interesting look, especially if Myles Garrett does something in that Cincinnati-Cleveland game. The story is going to be him. So maybe you catch lightning in a bottle there. And then I'll just say this. Obviously, the San Francisco bet is great if they win, right? I mean, that's an easy thing to look at. If they lose, I mean, Shanahan is 2-0, straight up ATS in the wild card round. He's pretty decent advancing. So, I mean, either way you look at it, I do feel like it's time to invest in San Francisco versus Seattle, especially to the fact that road game, everyone's kind of rolling that direction. I think San Francisco's probably the better call. If they win the game, they've got all the home coming up. Like, it just kind of makes sense to me. So that's the way I look at this matchup.
Yeah, you do not want Darnold on the road 3 times to get to the Super Bowl. Obviously, you want neither one of these guys on the road that much, but I think you trust San Fran's offense with Shanahan a lot more than you trust Darnold road 3 games to get there. To me, on my Seattle Super Bowl ticket, I feel like I'm close to drawing dead. Like, it's not really, but my gut is going to tell me Seattle, if you want Seattle Super Bowl, they got to win this game. San Fran's still alive. If Seattle loses this game, I think I'm done investing in Seattle this year. They need a huge market adjustment for me to get back in on them, even though they're my number 2 team. I just don't know if I get there on the trust again.
All right, let's keep moving here. This one has all sorts of implications. The coaches could be mutually gone. One quarterback could be making his final start in the NFL. One quarterback could be making his final start in Baltimore. It's going to be great. Ravens, Steelers, for all the marbles, Sunday Night Football. How do you read this one? Also, just to remind people, you took the hot read under 43.5, now at 41. You also did like Pittsburgh at the 3.5. Still sitting there at 3.5 with Lamar now probable and playing. Seems like that's the side you'll take, but what else are you looking at in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm really just kind of running back the hot read angle here. So a lot of what you've heard already, just to rehash, Lamar looks ready to go, but don't forget, so too TJ Watt. And I think that's the most important player for both teams. TJ Watt back in the field, probably with Trent Williams, the other most important player in big line swing for a team, even at the age for both those guys. Pittsburgh, kind of exactly what we thought they were. Pretty good, but not great defense. Very blah offense. It's gotten a lot worse as the year went on. The Ravens, I don't think people have totally adjusted on what they are. They're just a very mid team. Last 7 games, defense has been better than it was early, but still pretty average mostly. Offense, bottom 10 by DVOA, bottom 5 passing. Just not a great football team right now. And I know we saw them beat up on the Packers. We saw them run all over them. That was a specific matchup thing, and that wasn't even Lamar Jackson in that game. So to me, both defenses a little bit better than they were early on. Pittsburgh's defense, top 5 at home versus bottom 5 on the road. That was the read on the hot read, under 43.5. I don't mind the 41. Last 11 matchups, 34.5 points a game. So this is definitely a mine shaft type look on the game. Hopefully you got it earlier, but I wouldn't mind an under still now. I'm not going to bet the 41 because I've got the best of the line already. But to me, Pittsburgh plus 3.5. If you like the defense, if you like them at home, you should like them here. And it's really all about the trends. You can't really do a lot of matchup stuff in this game because this is one of the best trend spots of the year. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, last 12 games, 10 one-score games out of the 12. You play the history here. It's always close, and you just take the underdog. Here are some of the trends that you've heard over and over again, but they're worth hearing. Harbaugh versus Tomlin. The underdog is 25-7-3 against the spread, 78%, including when the dog is 3 points or higher, 23-3 87% ATS, nearly invincible. This is exactly a rah-rah Tomlin spot. We like them when they're underdogs, better at home, better in a division game, better after a loss, better as a touchdown underdog or less. All the check marks line up here. This is the spot to bet a Tomlin team, and it doesn't have to make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It never makes sense. And then here it's halftime. It's like, wow, look at that crazy kick return. And can you believe that fumble bounced off the guy's helmet, hit the camera in the air, and landed in somebody's arms for a touchdown? Like, this is what happens in these games that never make sense. And some team agnostic trends. AFC North underdogs, week 14 forward, 60%. Just any division underdog in that division. And Ravens, 17-point winners or better as underdogs of 7 or less. Since 2010, that's Baltimore, 36% ATS in the next game. This is a sell high on Baltimore spot. It's a give Pittsburgh and rah-rah Tomlin one more chance. And look, Tomlin loses playoff games. So if this is a playoff game, this bet could go very ugly very quickly. He's lost 6 straight playoff games, the last 4 by 11 or more points, including one to Baltimore, where this trend clearly didn't help, and the defense gave up 39 points a game. So we might get Baltimore Green Bay again. If this goes badly, it's going to go very badly. I don't blame you if you're like, no, I like Baltimore. Great. Like Baltimore by like 20 or 30. Like Baltimore doing all the things. If you want to go matchup, that's the way you go. I'm going to go trends. Pittsburgh plus 3.5. I can't blame you for taking the money line. Feels goofy and late if it's close like that. I'm just going to stick with Pittsburgh 3.5 and play the trends. And then the futures angle here. I'm going to surprise you a little bit. Rather than money line, okay, what's the setup? One team gets in. They're the 4 seed. You get the home game, probably against Houston, who we know I like, but my numbers say that's close to a coin flip game. That Pittsburgh would be more of an underdog. I like Baltimore slightly better, but we're going to have a lot of trends that say you bet the home underdogs in the wild card round, especially Baltimore. They would be 15% or less worse on the win rate than Houston, 75% ATS in that spot. So here's where I'm at. I don't think this is what happens, but I like the line. Whoever wins Baltimore-Pittsburgh has a real chance to upset Houston, presumably in the next round. It's probably like a total of 37, low scoring, ugly, close. You get the lucky kick late and get over the line. Give me Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I'll play both of them to lose, not in the wild card round, in the divisional round. Baltimore plus 460, Pittsburgh plus 750. We're getting both those teams together. It's about 30% combined odds. Here's what that means. Whoever wins this game, I don't know. I don't really care who wins the game. I can't figure it out. Hopefully Pittsburgh covers. But if they win in round 1 of the playoffs, now I have a plus 460 or plus 750 money line on the Patriots or Jaguars at home against them. I love that for me. I'm going to love that ticket, sitting on that against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, who I just don't think are very good. Can they hang in, whoever wins this one, and beat Houston? That's the look ahead angle there. That's the way I'd play this game.
Yeah, I'll take these a few at a time. So in terms of the under, I found this kind of intriguing. So since 2021, they've played 8 games where the total has decreased from opening to closing line. It's still gone 7-1 to the under on that close, which is obviously a lot lower than where it had been middle of the week. So if that's the type of game we get here, I think it's the right angle. Also, I put this a little bit in my primer this week, but without DK Metcalf, Pittsburgh does seem like a completely different offense. The A-dot was low. Rodgers was struggling down the field. Like, there was all sorts of different things that was impacting what that offense looked like. And I think that is a big thing, even if they do get TJ Watt. Like, all the different things on the other side of the ball, no DK Metcalf seemed to really impact them, especially to the fact that Rodgers is so damn stubborn. I mean, going to MVS like 4 or 5 times in those final drives, like, I have no idea what he is going to want to do late in this game based on who he trusts. That's who he throws the ball. Like, if Alan Lazard was out there, he'd get 7 targets in this game. Like, that's just who Aaron Rodgers is at this time in his career, and I think that's a very difficult thing to try to handicap. So that's number 1. Number 2, the underdog angle with Tomlin, like, it's completely understandable. He is 7-1 straight up as an underdog versus the Ravens since 2020. Like pretty ridiculous to be able to come forward and do that every single time in that span. The other one, which I thought was interesting, is obviously as a home underdog, he's performed well. But how about this one? As a home dog, where Tomlin has a better record than his opponent, he's never lost by more than 3 points in 9 games. So he's got some 2-point losses, he's got a 3-point loss, but he's either winning the game or it's a short, tight loss. So yeah, the 3.5 does sound absolutely fantastic. But if you're looking matchup-wise, what I saw last week against Cleveland, really, really, really bad. And again, you're also handicapping, are they going to give the ball to Derrick Henry a ton? Like, it feels like the offense completely different with Lamar than it was with Huntley. With Huntley, it was easy. Like, okay, Derrick Henry's going to get the rock a ton. With Lamar, they could try to get cute. And if they take the ball out of Henry's hands and they rely on a guy who's lost his burst, isn't playing well, like, this could be a disaster. I think the actual game handicap here, super difficult. And that's just the way I look at it. I do like the idea of Pittsburgh, if they win the game, losing in the next round. Baltimore, I just kind of toss my hands in the air. It would be interesting to see Pittsburgh win the game and get DK back, because I feel like 2 games without him, even if this doesn't go well, it would be a nice upgrade to an offense. It almost feels like adding a player later in the season, which is always an intriguing angle to take.
Yeah, and the one note too, New England or Jacksonville, who would be the presumed divisional round matchup, both really good run defenses. So I do like the setup for that against either one of these teams as well. So yeah, it's interesting. We got 3 huge games and can't really make a pick on either one of them. Thank good on NFL. We got some good games to watch that we don't really know what's going to happen. Let's get to some of the other goofy Sunday games now in the lightning round instead.
All right, it is lightning round time. We have 7 games here. We're going to go through them very quickly with an angle or 2 on each. We will start with the battle for the AFC South title, or at least it should be. Saints and Falcons. What are you doing in this one with a 3.5-point spread?
Yeah, so you know how the ACC had a Duke Virginia conference championship and then was like, yeah, let's just send Miami to the playoffs. Can we put the Saints in the playoffs? I think the Saints are the best team in the division. I think they have been for like half the season already. I like the Saints here. I don't know why they're such big underdogs. Give me Saints plus 3.5, Saints money line plus 160. New Orleans has won 5 of 7 in that stretch. They're 3-1 against the division. They're a top 12 team in the last 8 weeks. That's 2 months worth by EPA and DVOA. Defense especially good. Number 1 success rate in that stretch. Number 2 EPA per play. Basically, that's Seattle. That's what the Saints defense has been. And look, those factors are not counting strength of schedule, but Atlanta's not exactly a top strength of schedule here either. So I like the Saints here. Great all year against the run. That sets up well against Atlanta. And this game matters potentially. If the Bucs beat the Panthers, we actually have to pay attention here. Tyler Shuck looks pretty good. Plus 195 rookie of the year. That to me is maybe a money line bet for the Saints to end the year on like a 6-game winning streak in a game we might actually have to pay attention to. I don't mind kind of substituting that in either. Atlanta to me has the higher ceiling. We've seen them hit that in a couple key moments. Cry for me on Monday night. That was one of them. But I think the Saints are the better team. Give me the Saints plus 3.5, plus 160 money line.
Saints are the first team since 1990 to have a 4+ game straight up win streak with a 5+ game ATS win streak and still have a season win percentage below 40%. I mean, they are unlike anything we've seen in terms of how hot they've been later in the season. And it is Tyler Shuck. I mean, 6-2 against the spread in 8 starts. But the issue has been early. And we've talked about the Saints all season long in the first quarter, but it bleeds into the first half. Shuck is 2-6 first half ATS and 6-2 second half ATS. So they have been a better second half team. My biggest worry here, and I guess the toss back to you, would be Olave. Without him out there this weekend, I think that's also why you're getting the other half point. Is that something you're worried about in the offense? Like, it's Austin? Is it Tipton? Like, they do have a, fewer targets out there for him to work with.
Yeah, I'd rather have Olave playing here. So the Saints just don't have a lot of weapons left and already we're short anyways. I don't love it, but you're right. I think that is probably why we're getting the 3.5. I still think the Saints are the better team. I'm betting the Saints more on their defense overall, which I think can hang with Atlanta. And I'm going to trust Tyler Shuck and Kellen Moore to kind of find enough answers and get over the line.
All right, let's keep rolling here. I will say this. Since his first start in week 8, Shuck is 8th in completion percentage over expected and 14th in average depth of target. Both those things together, extremely impressive. All right, Lions, Bears. Obviously, for Detroit, eliminated, and a loss here would make them fourth in the standings, which is good for the schedule next year. Chicago playing for the 2-3 seed, depending on different things. So we will see Goff, we will see Caleb. So how you handicapping this one?
Yeah, we kind of teased this on the Sunday show. I just really like the lines here. I'll take the +3. I'll take the money line +140. To me, it's not really number. This is about the right number, but this is about matchup and motivation. Detroit hung 52 on this defense all the way back in week 2. Chicago's defense was a lot more banged up then, but still pretty gettable, as we've seen multiple times lately. And I know the whole fourth place schedule thing. This is Dan Campbell. If anything, I think Dan Campbell would want it harder. Like, he'd prefer the harder schedule to go earn it the hard way next year. He's going to want this game against Ben Johnson, the guy that left them for the divisional job. He's going to want the team to get above 500. He does not want to end the season on a 4-game losing streak. I guarantee you the Lions actually care about this game, want to come out and playing, and the Bears might not really need to. It looks like the Eagles may be resting key guys. If the Eagles lose, the Bears are locked in at 2 either way. So this game may not matter before it starts or maybe halfway through. I think both teams are kind of mirror images. You have loaded offense. You have not really great defenses. Detroit's fallen apart with all their injuries, but Chicago's still not any good. But Detroit still has won 6 of 7 against the Bears. They're still 14-3 ATS coming off a loss. That 3 is ticking up the last few weeks because that's all that's happening lately with the Lions, but still a pretty good spot to back Goff, back Campbell as an underdog against teams above 500. To me, just motivational spot. I just trust the fighting kneecap Dan Campbell's to come out here and give it a shot in a game that ultimately may not matter for Chicago. So I'll take Detroit with the 3 and the +140 money line.
Yeah, overall, Dan Campbell with the Lions 4-0 straight up ATS in week 18. And even after the loss to the Vikings, he's 8-2 ATS week 17 and 18. So seems to be finishing the season pretty decently. And this one I actually kind of like. Goff and Campbell 19-9 against the spread when the opponent has the better record. So a true biting kneecap spot where you want to, hurt your opponent. And you're right. The Ben Johnson stuff, definitely in the back of their mind. He wouldn't mind going 2-0 against him this season. So we will see how that goes. All right, let's keep rolling here. Washington and Philadelphia. Woof. So I believe at this point, it looks like Philly is resting everyone. So we thought Hurts early, but it looks like it's going to be Tanner McKee. And I think they're just going to give themselves a nice break. So with that being said, you got Josh Johnson on the other side. That line has come down to about 4.5 when it was much higher earlier in the week, about 7-8 range. So what are you doing with Washington and Philly?
Yeah, that line move is the entire angle for me in this game. I have to play a Washington. There's a 4.5 out there. Give me the Commanders 4.5. And I'm not going to tell you one reason why to bet the Commanders. I'm going to tell you why the line has to be wrong here. If this moved from 7.5 to now 4.5, that's basically a 3-point swing. The total also dropped down 3 points, same sort of thing. 3 points is nowhere near enough for the Eagles, who are the top heaviest team in the entire league. Their entire roster is stars and scrubs. The whole thing with them is when they're healthy, things can look really good. But when you take Saquon out, who's the backup running back? When you take out AJ or Devontae or Goddard, who do they have as depth? Nothing behind those guys. Mailata and Lane Johnson, who's out already. The tackles, then a line drops way off after that. On defense, they got the star corners, the star defensive tackles. Rest a couple of those guys. Well, who's left? Like, this is not a team culture team. This is we have invested like 80% of our salary cap into the top 10 dudes on the roster who aren't playing on Sunday anymore. So to me, if I go through position by position and kind of project, if I'm sitting guys, who am I sitting out? I dropped the Eagles down by almost 10 points off of that. It hurts, but all those other guys, and this line moved about 3 points. Now, I will say, I think 7.5 was probably a bit of a hedge. I think that was not the full game line. I would have had Philly minus 9.5 full game. So I think there was a little bit baked in already of, we think they might rest guys. Now we know they're resting guys. I still think best I could do for Philly would be like a coin flip here. I'm not afraid of Tanner McKee. Commanders, the one thing I will say about them, huge special teams edge here for them. This is just fully a line play. I'm going to play it aggressively because I think the line is very bad. And I think the Eagles don't care if they win this game, other than maybe trying to make Tanner McKee look good for trades in the future. Give me the Commanders plus 4.5. Give me them at plus 180 on the money line. And if they win, why not win comfortably? Washington minus 6.5 plus 370. Who would have ever thought that's the game I'm coming at you with week 18? I just think the line is bad. So that means all the lines are bad. And then last one, if you like the Commanders here, then the Bears game doesn't matter anymore. Commanders lines money line parlay, that's correlated plus 536. So I just think if the Eagles truly fully rest, they don't really care if they win or lose this one. They're just going to treat it as a bye week. And if Washington gets an advantage, they can win. And that sets up a lot of good numbers advantage here. So fully just numbers play for me. I don't think the line moved anywhere near correctly on this one.
Yeah, Sirianni's been in the spot a few times, it feels like. Later in the season, I mean, week 16 to 18, he's just 5-9 against the spread. Second worst of any head coach since he got the job. Shane Steichen is 1-7 in that spot. Philly, they've blown out a few people, but they've only won 3 of those 14 games by 9+. So no one's playing. I just think they're scared of the line falling too much lower when you did get some people on the 7.5s and this and that early in the week. So I think it probably either way will close in that 3 or 4 range, even with Josh Johnson on the other side. I mean, on the favorites earlier today, they took Washington on the 4. It seems like everyone is intrigued by that side, especially it looks like they're playing hard for Quinn. They've been eliminated for a few weeks, but when they went out there against Denver early in the season, they went for the 2-point conversion, it does feel like no matter what the circumstances is, that team is playing hard. And all you can really ask for in week 18 in this spot is, a team cares, because I think at this moment, that's something we all kind of question. So with the play, I like it at 4 or higher. So I'm with you on Washington, but Josh Johnson is Josh Johnson. So you kind of just take it with what you will. He might scramble a little bit, but not terrible. So I'm with you on Washington. I do like the money line parlay concept, though, and you were talking about the correlation. It does make complete sense. But again, who the heck knows what happens this week, so you might as well throw some darts. All right, stay in the NFC East here. Giants and Cowboys. I mean, this line has also crashed a bunch, but we were told a few weeks ago Dallas is playing their people. They're treating this as if they need the game and et cetera, et cetera. We saw maybe the Giants peak last week. They completely dominated the Raiders. They said, screw the draft pick. This is a bit of a different spot as Dallas is a bit emotional for them. So what do you think we do with Dallas and New York?
Yeah, I'm so mad that this line is sitting at minus 3.5 that I have to play this line. It's begging me to go Dallas. So I'm going to invest in a little Cowboys here. I don't understand. I would make this Cowboys 9.5. I'm texting people saying, is Dallas tanking? What am I missing on this line? And we literally talked about this, Evan, on our last podcast. Be careful with week 18. If the line looks goofy, probably somebody knows something you don't. But it sure looks like Dallas is trying. Dak wants to win the passing yardage crown. He's just a little bit ahead of Stafford here. Pickens has got some incentives. I think Dallas's offense is going to go here. They can rest their defense for all I care. Dallas has rested their defense the entire season. I don't really care what happens on that side. Dallas is already on extra rest. I think Brian Schottenheimer would like to get to 500, which they do with the win here. Exactly 500 because they had the tie in there. And the Giants, don't tell me that they're just going to go back to winning now. We just saw last year they won and cost themselves the number 1 pick and then immediately lost to the Eagles backups in week 18. So it's not like the Giants are just a winning team now. The Giants just played the Raiders last week. We didn't learn nothing about that. So we know what these teams are. Both awful defenses, both better on offense. Dallas has obviously the way better offense. Clayton Adams, we've talked about him a lot. They're going to be able to run all over on the Giants. I think they'll pass enough. The receivers can beat those cornerbacks. This is when you back Dak and when you back Dallas as favorites in the division against bad teams. This is the spot. So maybe it's a bad spot because there's something we don't know. But if Dallas tries at all, I have to like them here. They've won 16 of 17 against the Giants, 30 points or more in over half of those, 36 or more in 6 of those 14 of their last 14. So to me, Dallas minus 3.5 is literally a criminal line if this is a full strength game. So I'm playing the Cowboys. The Giants have allowed 29 points a game in their losses, 33 or more in almost half of them. So my escalator here we are, Cowboys escalator in week 18, over 33.5 points for the Cowboys, plus 330. If they try offensively, I think they could just name their number and end the season on a high. And I think Dallas would like to do that, honestly.
Yeah, you had mentioned the successor. I mean, Dak's 14-2 straight ups, 10-6 against the spread versus the Giants. He's won 14 straight against them. And here's the one I take away. Dallas has lost 4 straight against the spread entering this game, but who cares? I mean, they've scored 26 points per game in those games. And the reason why they're 0-4 against the spread is their defense has allowed 34 points per game during that stretch. That's not what you're going to get from the Giants here. So, I mean, as long as that 26 stays kind of consistent, I don't expect them to allow that type of game. And I do see Dallas's offense getting a little bit back on track. So this is the normal letdown spot after the massive Raiders win, which I know that locker room was like, screw the draft pick. Let's show up. Let's show everyone what we got. And then this one, I think they got their flights already booked. So I'm with you on Dallas. All right, let's keep rolling here. Bengals and Browns. We had talked about this earlier as well in the favorites. Like, the Browns might have the craziest home field advantage in terms of their home road splits than we really seen. Like, they are a much better home team, which I do feel like is the handicap in this game. So how are you taking Cincinnati and Cleveland?
Yeah, I think, again, we kind of know what these teams are at this point. The Bengals defense is terrible, but not as bad lately. But we know their offense is going to score points. They're going to score points all season long. Browns, awful offense, awful special teams. Worst in the league, both of those. Bengals, big special teams advantage. Should set them up for some easy scores here. And yeah, the whole thing is this crazy home road split for the Browns defense. Defense is already falling. In the last 6 weeks, they're only kind of fringe top 10. Still very good, as bad as the rest of the team is. But that's a far cry from like top 3 earlier in the year. And they've been way worse on the road. This season, when they have played on the road against a top half of the league offense by DVOA, Cleveland allowed 31, 32, 34, and 41 points. This is not new. We've had this on the pod before. A trend from Klevda since 2023. The opponent is now 22-4 to the team total when the Browns are on the road. They're at 22-4 by almost a full touchdown a game, including over a third of those by more than 10 points a game. So I think the Bengals can possibly hang a huge number here without Jake Browning, who we know was terrible this year. 12 other Bengals games. Bengals scored 31 or more in over half of those games, 37 or more in 4 of their last 9 games, even though they had the weird, goofy shutout in there as well. So again, what makes sense from a narrative standpoint here? The Browns finally got the big win. All right, well, they lose again. Too late to tank. That's classic Browns. And the Bengals score big. Too late to matter. Yet again, the team nobody wants to play in the playoffs and doesn't have to. So give me a Bengals team total escalator. Over 26.5. That's the line. It's too low. And then 31 or more points plus 165. And just in case they get a big explosion late, I know Jamar Chase has some good incentives. He's going to want another big game. 40 or more points for the Bengals plus 625. I think the Browns and the Bengals go out exactly like we've seen them all season.
Yeah, and obviously Browns off the win. They are 0-6 against the spread after a straight-up win this year, failing to cover by 11.4 points per game. And in those 6 games after the win, their opponents are scoring 30.2 points per game. And I think the other interesting angle, which we always talk about, is Burrow against the Browns. He's had his struggles before, but it's mostly on the road. On the road against Cleveland, he averages 16.8 points per game. At home, it's up to 24.3, almost a 8-point difference. So to me, it's the right play, and I do feel like both of those storylines will continue. Cleveland will struggle after the win. The Bengals will look great. The offense will look fantastic, and they will continue to miss the playoffs entering the offseason. All right, let's keep rolling here. New England and Miami. Obviously, nothing on the road here for Miami. It looks like a lot of people are going to sit in this game. A lot of people not practicing this week. Seems like Achane, Waddle might have some be out of this game. And on the other side, Drake May playing for the MVP, basically, in this situation. Obviously, the cold weather for Miami as well. A lot of different factors. So how are you handicapping this one?
I'm going to play a little Drake May. I think it's finally time to admit, I think the MVP is over. We watched it die on Monday night. Stafford, 3 interceptions, was terrible. I know a lot of folks tailed 50-1 before the season, wanted my comment on it. I think it's cooked. 50-1 Stafford. Now RIP, along with, in the last 5 years alone, Purdy 50-1 2 years ago. We had that ticket, December favorite, and then lost that big Lamar game on Christmas.
Oof.
Tom Brady 14-1 before the season. Had the Thursday night 9-6 loss in December, lost it. Look, if you're a futures bettor, if you're good at your job, you should have heartbreak like this. It stinks, but you should have tickets that get all the way there and almost cash and then don't quite get there. That's how long shot bets go. You kind of have to live with it. I didn't cash any of these out. I'm just kind of playing it out. And if you want to hit the 50-1, you got to lose some close 50-1s. But am I investing a little bit in Drake May here to get a little bit back on the MVP push? Yes, absolutely. Dolphins pass defense, even as they got better this season elsewhere, never pass defense. 7th in pass touchdowns allowed, 1.75 a game, 2 or more in 10 of 16. But look a little closer at the schedule. They only played the QB1 on the other team 11 times. All 10 games that they gave up 2 touchdowns or more passing was against the QB1. So 10 of 11, 2 touchdowns or more against QB1. And then look at who they face as the top guys. If you take guys that are consensus top 10 quarterbacks, Josh Allen twice for Miami, Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, and of course May once before. 6 games Miami's played a top 10 quarterback. They allowed 18 total touchdowns to those quarterbacks. So 3 per game, including 3, 3, 4, and 4 in those 6 games to those quarterbacks. Drake May, 2 touchdowns or more 11 times already, a couple threes, and then 5 last week. The perfect stat padding time against the Jets. Well, guess what? Miami's a stat padding team too. And if we're going to lose MVP, we may as well lose it in style. So over 1.5 touchdowns for Drake May. It's minus 160, but I think worth drinking the juice because that is kind of the baseline against Miami. 3 touchdowns passing, plus 260, 4 at plus 850. I'd play 5, honestly, but I haven't seen a line out there, but we probably will get one by Sunday. And look, we might not need the whole game because probably it could be a blowout and then the Patriots maybe rest a little bit. Drake May threw 5 touchdowns last week, playing 1 drive, I think, in the second half. So we might not even need the whole game, even if we don't get it. Drake May touchdowns escalator. And then just last note, no pick 6 this week because it was week 18. But if you just look back at the games we just talked about, Patriots, Bengals, Cowboys favored, Commanders, Lions, Saints as underdogs. There's your pick 6 for the week. 3 dogs, 3 favorites. It's about 36-1. If you wanted to go pick 6, that would be my play for the week as well.
The one thing I did see with Drake May, last 7 starts on normal 7-day rest, Sunday to Sunday, 19 passing touchdowns, 2.7 per game in that stretch. So, that is absolutely in fuego. And this was in the primer, but as a favorite of 3 points or more, he is 9-0 straight up, 7-2 against the spread. So he has been very, very good as a good favorite. And Patriots are 10-0 this season versus teams under 500, winning by 14-8 per game, which is crazy in itself. Vrabel ain't letting up here. There's a lot on the line. He could win Coach of the Year. Patriots want momentum heading into the playoffs. They want to lock up the MVP. This feels like a statement blowout Miami, kind of end everything going into the playoffs. Your pick 6, you already mentioned. Let's do it. Playoff time. So you got look-aheads here. There are spreads for some of these wildcard matchups, and then obviously there's things like elimination stages, like all sorts of different ways to play this. So talk to me about the playoffs.
Yeah, just really quickly wrapping up these playoff contingent matchups. Like we've got like a Rams-Eagles matchup. If that game doesn't happen, you just get your money back. So there's no real concern of you're not betting on this is the matchup and here's who I think. Make sure to kind of check your books for those details. But the main thing I wanted here on the game next week is that 4 seed NFC is going to be the Bucs or the Panthers. By far my worst team in the playoffs. And in all likelihood, they're going to play either the Seahawks or the Rams, who are my 2 best teams in the playoffs. That's the game I want. I want it anywhere I can find it. Seahawks or Rams at Panthers or Bucs under a touchdown. Can you give me any combo like that anywhere on the board? And at one major book out there, I see a Seattle minus 6.5 at Tampa Bay. That's the look-ahead pick for this week. I make both of those Seahawks-Rams teams closer to more than a touchdown at Tampa, closer to double digits at Carolina. It's my top 2 teams. I have Carolina and the Buccaneers. Here's kind of where I put them in my power ratings right now for comparison. They're below Dallas, Indy, Cincinnati, and Minnesota. Then Tampa and Carolina. That's what we're looking at. I have Seattle and LA plus 8 on a neutral field compared to a neutral team. I have the Bucs and Panthers negative, -1, -2 range. And by the way, nobody else is even above a +5. That's how far ahead I have Rams and Seahawks from the field. So this is the biggest matchup we'll get in the playoffs, biggest matchup difference, I should say. So Seattle under a touchdown. And, check your books. Any other matchup like that in that combination, Either of those teams below a touchdown, I love to get money on that. Just two other lines quickly that caught my eye. Bears minus 106 as money line underdogs home against the Packers. I make the Bears favored by more than a field goal with all those Packers injuries. So not comfortable. Chicago, Green Bay, if we get it, but minus 106 money line. And then Rams money line minus 120 at the Eagles. Again, I have the Rams by over a field goal in that matchup. And those are both uncomfortable matchups there. We've seen Rams Eagles play earlier this year and the playoffs last year, but the Rams are my top team. So it's just a team that I would have to bet as basically a coin flip sort of money line. So Bears home versus Packers, Rams at the Eagles. But the main one, Seattle minus 6.5 at Tampa. That's the line for look ahead. And then we'll get to the playoffs and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at that point with Seattle, I mean, a big favorite. It's been a good spot for Darnold. He's 13-0 straight up, 10-3 on the number when he has a favorite of 6 points or more. So in that spot, that is where he would be with Tampa Bay. The great thing about that Rams-Philly game, like there is going to be a bunch of revenge on the table. Like McVay, first of all, Rams 1-10 straight up versus Philly since 2005. McVay is 1-6 in those games. So he will definitely know his struggles and be prepared. And that is a very short line. Just pick your winner, which is intriguing enough. All right, that'll do it here on the Action Network podcast for our NFL Week 18 Best Bets episode presented by DraftKings. If you want instant notifications when action experts track their bets, go to actionnetwork.com/pro. Use a promo code POD20, POD20 for $20 off a year of Action Pro. If you haven't yet, check out our new AI Quick Slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook at Playbook. Tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for. It'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds, whether it's straight wagers, parlays, props, whatever you need, it is there for you. And again, if you want to tail some of the bets we gave out today, make sure to look for the quick slip link in the video description or podcast link. Go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. We'll be back Sunday night for our NFL recap show after Steelers and Ravens to recap everything and talk about the playoff picture coming up, give you some bets and some leans. We will be live on Action Network's YouTube page shortly after Sunday Night Football. Look for the link on Action Network's Twitter page. We will have it retweeted. Be very easy to access and come hang out with us. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the slate. Good luck with all your bets this weekend. It is going to be a fun one, and it's the last.